If you are an F1 fan, Bolin Media is also home to the best American-made F1 show on the planet, Formula Bone, available to watch at youtube.com/@FormulaBone and in audio form on all the major podcast platforms. Follow on social media at Formula Bone. Every week, your host, Jared J-Bone Borislow, brings you the latest and greatest from this F1 season with a recap of the most recent race and a preview of the next race. If you love F1, you will love Formula Bone. We also have the Ross Bolin podcast, my personal podcast where I talk about life, ridiculous news stories, strange Wikipedia pages, mental health, awesome animals, and a bunch of other random things I find to be entertaining and funny. The Ross Bolin podcast is available wherever you are enjoying oysters, clams, and cockles. And if you're a Houston sports fan, we also have Banging the Can, my Houston sports podcast, also available wherever you get OCC. Thank you for supporting Bolin Media, and enjoy today's show. Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley, ready to digest and discuss episode 4 of season 2 of House of the Dragon, the Red Dragon and the Gold. I'm not okay, Barrett.
Yeah, this is me today. I'm going to give you a little taste of me, okay? Are you ready?
Just frustrated. Little Tim Robinson frustration.
I'm Tim Robinson frustrated. Yeah.
She should have lived to be Hand of the Queen.
You've got your Meleese shirt on today.
What are the odds? Okay, so I found this website with they had two options for House of the Dragon shirts. Okay, I'm not going to tell you where the website is because I'm gatekeeping.
Okay.
And no free shout outs, but the two options were Vhagar and Meleese. This is 2 weeks ago. So I order Meleese. The shirt comes in last week. Bam, she's dead.
Prescient timing.
Right?
Yeah, wow.
Tight shirt, though.
Very cool shirt.
And I'm glad I have it to wear today and honor her and her memory.
Yeah.
Damn you, though, George R. R. Martin.
Stuff. Damn, yeah.
Fuck.
And we will, we have to say this up top again. Just because I don't know what's getting clipped and then sent out on social media, and I don't know who's randomly tuning in. We cover the show as the show.
Yeah. We didn't read the book.
We do not know what happens in the books, although I have a note on that later. And so my reactions today, the things that I'm going to say about the show and about the narrative that we got here in this episode and going forward, will be based exclusively on what this 60 minutes of television gave to me.
Yes, same.
Not based on anything else, not based on, actually, none of that. It's not what my reaction is based on. So once again, just if you read the book and you know exactly what happens and you know the differences between the show and the book, bully for you. Please note that my reactions today are based exclusively on the 60 minutes of television that I witnessed last night.
Respect us.
Yeah.
And our decisions.
And wood. Also respect wood.
And wood, of course, always.
Do you respect wood?
Always.
Yeah, good.
A reminder, our show is available on all the major podcast platforms as well as in full video on youtube.com/@OystersClamsCockles. Please subscribe, rate, and review if you like what we do. Give us 5 stars, write a little review on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars on Spotify. Help the boys out. It means a lot. If you're watching on YouTube right now, subscribe, light up that like button, turn on notifications so you know immediately when our videos drop, and leave a comment when one comes to you as you watch today's show, please and thank you. Follow Barrett on X and Instagram at Barrett Dudley, and follow me, Ross, on X and Instagram at WR Bolin. Thank you very much. Also follow our show. Just search Oysters, Clams, and Cockles on TikTok, Instagram, and X. We appreciate all of you in the Clam fam very much for being here, for listening and watching and supporting OCC every week. In addition to our public sponsor-based podcast, Barrett and I record and release an ad-free podcast further digesting and dissecting the latest episode of House of the Dragon, driven by hotline calls from our listeners exclusively on patreon.com/OystersClamsCockles. There are over 1,700 members of the Clam Fam and Mollusk Militia currently on Patreon enjoying our ad-free bonus episodes every week. And right now, we are offering a 7-day free trial on patreon.com/OystersClamsCockles so you can subscribe and check out the 3 ad-free bonus episodes we have already dropped so far this season. Then stick around to support our show and enjoy the ad-free deep dive hotline call podcasts for the rest of House of the Dragon Season 2, please and thank you. That's patreon.com /oysters, clams, cockles, and there is a shit ton of ad-free content there already for you to enjoy, which you can see by clicking on the collections tab of our page. All right, let's do this. The Red Dragon and the Gold was written by Ryan Condal, the showrunner.
Con man.
Directed by Alan Taylor, who is a veteran Game of Thrones director. He did 7 episodes of Thrones. He also did 9 episodes of The Sopranos, as well as the prequel movie, The Many Saints of Newark. He directed that too.
Did he do some Succession episodes?
Maybe. He's like a grizzled HBO.
Yeah, this dude is
all-timer.
He's on everything.
Yeah. Also, Barrett and I did a companion podcast for every single episode of The Sopranos, which is on our Patreon, I might add. Episode 4 starts with dreamin'-ass Daemon basically being held hostage by haunted Harrenhal. Mm-hmm. The man is making absolutely zero progress in terms of gathering an army to Rhaenyra's cause. He's just in there tripping balls under some witch's spell. He dreams that he walks into the throne room in the Red Keep, which we saw that bit in the trailer, right?
In the trailer, yeah.
He sees young Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne, wearing Viserys' crown, speaking in High Valyrian, but he can't understand her.
A lot of High Valyrian this episode.
A lot. Rhaenyra approaches him and says, in High Valyrian, "You created me, Daemon, yet you are now set on destroying me, all because your brother loved me more than he did you." So he chops her head clean off. And it keeps talking. Rhaenyra's head says, "This is what you always wanted, is it not?" And then there's been a raven. So
that's when I knew it was a dream, is when that head kept talking.
Yeah, that is the giveaway. Definitely. Daemon wakes up in his bed and he sees blood on his hand, which then disappears when he turns it over, just to let you know. He's really going through it. And Sir Simon Strong, the Castellan of Harrenhal, informs him that Aegon's army left King's Landing a fortnight ago. They've been taking castles and bannermen and troops, with 2 houses specifically citing the assassination of Jaehaerys, the heir, in their declarations. So not only is Daemon failing to gather support to Rhaenyra's cause, his hiring of Blood and Cheese actually has directly led to the other side gaining momentum as feared.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And just all of this stuff happening with Daemon, it's very yes, we're dealing with somebody that's in Harrenhal that might be a little witchy or a little have some kind of powers, some supernatural type stuff happening. But also, this is just reminding you that it's always kind of nodded to and alluded to, but Harrenhal, it's just there's bad juju here, man.
You don't want to go.
You don't want to go here. Yeah, this is why it's this massive castle that nobody wants and nobody keeps for very long, because it's just bad vibes, man. The vibes are not. They're the opposite of immaculate here.
It's always in limbo, always under new management. It's always a disaster. Yeah, we're getting a clear picture about Harrenhal here.
Also, just a quick note, because this is I'm actually shocked that nobody called in about this last week, or if they did, we missed it. But we had questions about the whole, in episode 3, about Daemon demanding that he be called Your Grace.
Right.
But there's a little in the previously on. There's a little moment where the small council, Rhaenyra's small council, is talking about what Daemon's doing at Harrenhal, and they call him Prince Daemon.
Right.
So in Rhaenyra's, in her presence, they are calling him Prince Daemon.
Prince.
He goes to Harrenhal and says, "Oh, actually, it's Your Grace."
Yeah.
But so this is indicating something. And there's a lot of, we don't actually know what he's doing trying to call these bannermen. But if he ends up rounding up 40,000 troops and making an approach on King's Landing, there's a good chance that he's going to try to sit on the throne instead.
I would say that's a fair guess at this point.
So so him going through now again, we're obviously going to talk more about the Harrenhal stuff, but he's going through a lot trying to figure out what exactly it is that he wants, what Rhaenyra means to him, et cetera, et cetera. But all that to clarify that even though Simon literally calls him Your Grace, the King Consort in this episode, him requesting the title of Your Grace is significant, because that means that he is kind of up to something.
Yeah, and even that line, the way Simon delivers it, he's like, "This is the King Consort."
Yeah.
He's walking on eggshells.
Yeah. He's
not really sure what to make of Daemon's
That's right.
current position. Yeah. So Daemon meets with Sir Oscar Tully, heir to Riverrun and grandson to Lord Grover Tully, who was incapacitated. It sounds like he's in a coma or something. But Daemon basically asks Oscar to not resuscitate Lord Grover. And the kid Oscar is like, dude, no, what? Like, Daemon gets frustrated and tells Simon Strong to summon House Blackwood because he needs men of action, not this little pussy who won't kill his grandpa.
Grandsire.
But yeah, I just say, as a diplomat, Daemon is not the best. And we'll be back to Harrenhal in a bit. But on Driftmark, Rhaenys goes to see Corlys. But first, she runs into Alan with a Y and tells him he's very comely and his mother must have been very beautiful, which it was just like, look, she was admiring his Corlys features while also making it clear that she's not the mom.
Right.
And kind of putting a little bit of stank on it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's safe to say we can take this as confirmation that Alan with a Y and Double D Adam are indeed Corlys's bastards.
I would say this was definitely,
Yeah.
this was some particular confirmation.
Yes.
At the very least for my guy Alan here.
Yeah. So Rhaenys goes on to tell Corlys that she knows who Alan is. It seems like they've talked about him before. Like, this is not the first acknowledgement in their relationship of Corlys having some extramarital affairs, or
Right.
or maybe perhaps, I don't know how long they've been together exactly, but I'm just assuming these are
Well,
bastards.
Alan's looks like he's about 34, so
Yeah, he's not a kid. He's a
child.
grown-ass man.
yeah.
She also informs Corlys that Baela has called her back to Dragonstone to help deal with Rhaenyra's small council while Rhaenyra is away trying to, as she puts it, draw them all back from the abyss. In King's Landing, Alicent gets some Plan T from the Grand Maester under the pretense that it's for some other girl. And Alicent also asks the Grand Maester if he believes Viserys wanted Aegon to succeed him. You can tell she's kind of like, she's dealing with the conversation that she had with Rhaenyra last week when Rhaenyra visited King's Landing.
Got all the books out, got the histories out.
Right, yeah. Grand Maester says Viserys never brought this up with him, though, so he can't really help her out. She chugs the Plan T, which proves one thing. Kristen Cole's pull-out game, weak.
Well, I mean, sure, maybe.
Yeah. To quote Cardi B, make that pull-out game weak. Birth control is kind of a frequent topic on this show now, by the way.
Yeah.
Plan T has come up a lot.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder what the role of the Plan T is in the books, because they're using it an awful lot here.
Frequent.
It's a frequent
But it's
topic.
like,
it's a frequent served beverage.
we've seen it used as like seemingly a precautionary measure, much like Plan B is used, the morning after or whatever, the morning after pill, if you want to call it that.
Hundo P. Yeah.
This felt like she was pregnant. Like, the way she was addressing her tummy, it kind of, it made it seem like it wasn't just like, oh, me and Cole banged last night. It made it seem like she had started to feel the symptoms of pregnancy and was like, well, shit, got to fix this.
Okay, interesting.
So I thought it was maybe a little bit more intense than our usual Plan T experience.
Very possible. Very possible. Also possible that. That's a good question, because she's not doing this every time. She's not having the Maester bring the Plan T up every time she bangs Cole.
No.
Right?
No, and it seems like the Plan T experience is pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
It's not just like you drink it down and you're fine and you can go about your business.
Right,
Like, she's basically in her chambers the rest of the episode suffering. So,
Okay,
I don't know. They just gave us a couple of shots where she seemed to have, like, hands on the belly.
Yeah, she was getting the warming rocks. Like,
Right. Yeah, she was going through it. So I think this was,
Okay.
I think you could assume that maybe she was actually knocked up by Kristen Cole, and this was her handling that. Regardless, it was tough to watch Alicent in this episode. On Dragonstone, Rhaenyra's council is frustrated because Baela can't really provide any information on the whereabouts of Aegon's army because Kristen Cole and his forces are staying beneath the trees, so the dragons can't see them. They're also frustrated because they're getting no response back from Dreamin' Daemon on Dragonstone. He's just like not replying to their letters.
To the ravens, yeah.
No raven responses.
They've sent many ravens. None have returned.
Yeah, he's gone rogue, as he is wont to do, and this is causing a lot of dissension within Rhaenyra's small council, which, as we've noted repeatedly, is a mess. It's a bit of a mess.
At least we got some names this week.
We did. We got some.
Alfred, I think, is one.
Yeah.
One of them owns Rook's Rest or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like the Greens are going after strongholds and castles and shit that are actually they're held by people on Rhaenyra's council.
Right.
Lord Corlys shows up here and attempts to put the council in their place, and other than that, sort of an inconsequential pop in here on their council.
He does a pretty good job, you know.
Yeah. Shutting people up.
He shuts them up.
Yeah, and Dat Boy Jace just continues serving face.
That boy Jace is getting antsy.
Yeah. You ever get home from work and wish you could just plop on the couch and enjoy your favorite TV show or movie without having to worry about what's for dinner? Of course you do. We all do. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor, and they can help with that. Warmer, sunnier days are here. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals this summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine and make your life easier. What are you waiting for? Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Just pick your meal out of the fridge, pop it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and enjoy shockingly good food without any fuss. Dinner time at my house can be extremely chaotic, so it's nice that on some nights when my wife and I don't feel like cooking or don't have the ingredients or haven't been to the grocery store, we can turn to Factor to make sure our family is still eating well. I've probably had all 35 different meal options at this point, and everything Factor delivers is phenomenal. Factor is, without a doubt, by far, the best meal delivery service I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot of them, Clam Fam. Head to factormeals.com/OCC50. Use code OCC50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code OCC50 at factormeals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. So Sir Criston Cole has captured some more troops, and he lets these troops, the men of House Darklyn, know they can either bend the knee and serve the king or die. And Lord Darklyn gets a few good lines in before his beheading here. He calls Criston Cole Kingmaker. And tells him he's not fit for the White Cloak, and you know that shit cut Cole deep. That's like pretty much all he cares about, right? And he's got some serious insecurities around whether or not he is worthy of the White Cloak. Seeing as that, he's taken it off to bang 2 different members of the royal family. So... Also, that's 2 on-screen beheadings in the first, 20 minutes of the episode between Daemon in his dream cutting off Rhaenyra's head.
Oh, yeah.
And old Darklyn here losing his head to Cole, who I would note can't get his arms up that high when he's got the old armor on. It's not like a full-blown backswing.
You think that's
just like shoulders.
Do you think that's significant?
No.
Okay.
It's just kind of funny looking to me.
Okay. Sure. Technically, you are correct, but I thought it was noteworthy that the Rhaenyra beheading was they didn't do any blood spurting or anything like that.
They did not,
as it was a dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
thought it was intentionally less gory.
Definitely,
because it wasn't real, that one.
If you recall the first beheading on Game of Thrones, when Ned Stark has to execute that member of the Night's Watch who was a deserter. They had it hooked up to where it's just spraying blood out of his neck, 20 feet. It's just it's absolutely ridiculous how over the top it was. And this was not that.
Yeah.
This was not that. A boy brings Cole a message, which, rewatching the episode, I realize is from Aemond, who is basically commanding him. It seems like Aemond is telling Cole, here's what you're going to do next. Right? We get more later on in the episode that Aemond is also going rogue, much like Daemon, and sort of going around his brother, the king, and making decisions about what they're going to do strategically in this war.
Okay.
And we get this random scene where, Cole is walking off after executing Darklyn.
Yeah.
And the kid brings him a message, and he kind of looks at it and, he doesn't look at it and go, exactly, yes, and walk off confidently. He kind of is okay, he's taking it in, what he's being told. What he's being told is that they're not going to Harrenhal, that they're going to Rook's Rest, right?
Yep.
But yeah, this little buddy cop duo of Aemond and Cole is really wreaking havoc now that Otto Hightower is not around to rein them in, right? Cole
they're stacking victories though.
That's
you
true.
Know what I mean, they're just racking up castles, murdering a ton of people, but adding a ton of people to the army.
Yeah.
taking no prisoners, on the warpath.
It felt like how much credit they were given in this episode did not bode well for the future, though. Like, too hot of a start. It's like baseball, right? Like, you win, 20 of your first 25 games, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to the World Series. It's like, this doesn't matter. There's 162 games. You have to get hot at the right time.
We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, though.
Cole orders Sir Gawain and the troops to go northeast and follow the coastline, which is not the direction of Harrenhal, much to Gawain's surprise. And that is that for Cole and Gawain for now. On King's Landing, Aegon is upset with his small council because Daemon has taken Harrenhal and nobody is CCing him on any of the emails or sending him any of the memos. He's just completely in the dark and nobody seems to care. He freaks out on Larys Clubfoot. He's like, it's your castle. Like, what the hell, Harrenhal? And Larys responds by saying Harrenhal is a haunted shithole that will sap Daemon's resolve and keep him occupied while they deal with other threats, like we already touched on earlier, obviously. Aemond, One Eye, basically takes the meeting over and tells Aegon that Sir Criston is riding on Rook's Nest, some small castle that is weakly defended. Also, Lord Staunton of Rook's Nest sits on Rhaenyra's council. He says, quote, after Cole smashes it, we'll have Dragonstone all but cut off by land. So it seems like strategically, he's thought this through, Aemond.
Right.
He's not just doing some dumb shit or trying to get an easy win.
Yep.
He sees this as a very big move for them longer term. Aemond then informs Aegon that basically he and Cole have been secretly strategizing without Aegon's authority and then just starts belittling him in High Valyrian.
Yeah.
So Aegon sadly attempts to respond in High Valyrian saying, and I quote, I can have to make a war? That boy Aegon should have been using Babbel to learn a language so he wouldn't sound like such an ignorant dum-dum. Get up to 60% off on your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/OCC. That's up to 60% off at babbel.com/OCC, spelled BABBEL.com/OCC. Yeah, this was sad.
This was...
He tried so hard.
Aemond really gets to shine in this episode, and Ewan Mitchell has a very special thing about his face where the little ends of his mouth just kind of curl up in this little, smile thing that he does.
Like the Grinch?
It's kind of Grinchy. Yeah, it's Grinchian. But it's very good, and it's just, the ultimate, little, smirk smile that he's able to do. And he does it a couple times in this episode.
Does it in response to Aegon's attempt at High Valyrian.
Yeah, but does it here? I mean, he's just kind of doing the whole thing while he's just undressing this dude. And yeah, it's a big episode for Aemond.
Big timing his brother Aegon like crazy.
Yeah.
After being humiliated by him in that brothel last week.
Right.
Seems like that might have been a breaking point in their relationship based on how this episode unfolds.
It seems like he's maybe holding a grudge a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. He basically carries on leading the meeting and discussing the plan to take Rook's Nest after, putting a proverbial sock in Aegon's mouth. Alicent is in her chambers dealing with the aftermath of ingesting Plan T when Lord Larys calls on her because she was absent from the small council meeting. So she didn't even attend. She's staying back in her room.
Yeah.
He sees the Plan T and says he believes it is a sin to deny our appetites as they are what make us fully alive as mortal men. Larys is a nasty boy. That's the takeaway here. He also tells Alicent that she hasn't seemed like herself lately, and she's like, well, yeah, my husband died a few weeks ago, and every day since has been a living hell. I've barely had the hours to grieve one tragedy before suffering the next, which is a fair point.
Very fair point.
That will remain true through the end of today's show. She does not mention Rhaenyra visiting her, but Larys sort of prods her about Viserys' reasoning behind allegedly changing his mind and wanting Aegon to be king and whether or not Alicent now doubts Viserys' intentions in those final hours.
Yeah, I mean, he's walking around. By the way, Alicent, while just inviting literally anybody that knocks on her door into her chambers, that doesn't seem like a great move. She then tries to say that she's got a little bit of an upset tum-tum because of all the pie that she ate last night.
Too much pie.
And Larys just looks down at the Plan T and he's like, oh, and then he just starts casually walking around and she's got all the history textbooks open. Come on, lady. Are you trying to be indiscreet here, or you don't care what somebody walks in here and sees?
Yeah, I guess she's just such a mess right now.
Yeah.
Because the Plan T is egregious. It's come on, chug the cup,
and put that thing away
and ditch it.
Right. Yes.
If you're gonna just be inviting anybody in all willy-nilly.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like it's kind of clear that like the Plan T only comes in one very specific vessel.
Exactly.
Right?
Like everybody knows what that is. Everybody knows what that is. It's got good branding.
Right. But so I think Larys is like it's very clear to him that she's hunting for something. She's looking for confirmation or validation, or maybe the opposite, to like give her some type of validation for what she thinks she heard and what they're doing. And so I think he sees all that, knows she's going through something, and is like, this guy reads people. He knows he's got that intuition about him. And he's just like, I think he's reading that she is like having second thoughts about the decision, the quote unquote decision that Varys made to install Aegon.
The Viserys made, yeah.
And I mean, I'm curious to what your takeaway at the end of the conversation is, when she's basically like, whatever his intention was, it died with him, and he is basically like, yeah, that's right.
It's a cold little monologue there. She says, Rhaenyra's supporters will believe what they wish, and so will Aegon's. The war will be fought, many will die, and the victor will eventually ascend the throne. The significance of Viserys' intentions died with him. And I mean, I like your take that she's, because I had a question, what is she doing going through all these histories? Why is she so into the history books right now? Didn't strike me as necessarily that type of girl. One answer for me was she misses Viserys and his, peaceful wisdom.
Yep.
But I think you're hitting the nail on the head. She's also maybe searching for something to validate her decision-making. Some other instance in history that mirrors this one, that will give her the confidence back that Rhaenyra has robbed her of, because that conversation at the Sept shook her.
Yeah.
Clearly shook her. And everything else that has happened,
And
as a part of it.
I think it's a little bit of all of the above. She does invoke Viserys' name and talk about how his like vast knowledge of the histories and of the texts aided his wisdom, and was one of the reasons why he was such a restrained and peaceful king, and was so good at maintaining all of that order. So I do think it's a little bit of that. But yeah, I think it's she's looking for something to tell her that this is all going to work out, right?
That it's going to be okay.
That it's going to be okay. Or that, she's just, honestly, I think she's looking for anything, right?
Yeah.
To either push her one way or the other, or to make her feel better, to give her that confidence back, like you mentioned. And Larys' little response there at the end, where he's like, basically like, yeah, indeed, that is true. I think he is making sure that she is not faltering in her commitment to the cause, basically.
Right.
That's what that was my takeaway there, is like, he's kind of like, okay, good, you've come to the proper conclusion, which is that none of that shit matters anymore.
Almost asking her, you get it, right?
Right.
We can't go back. This is it.
Yeah.
And her coming to terms with the fact that even if she wanted to believe Rhaenyra, even if she wanted to decide, we fucked up, I fucked up, this should not be Aegon, maybe Viserys didn't say what I thought he said, it's too late, like she tells Rhaenyra. It really is. Yeah. It doesn't matter, because what's she gonna, she's got no more hand, man. She's got no power. Yeah. She's just along for the ride at this point.
Yeah.
There's too much inertia behind this war to stop it.
And this is a big, I mean, she ends up really impacting what happens here, but her arc is really interesting too, because she does move from being like a driver of the situation to being totally just a passenger, like she does not have her hands on the reins anymore, really.
Yeah. And that's kind of a thing that happens. Sometimes you create a movement and then you lose control of it.
Yeah.
And it's going, whether you like it or not, right? I'm so curious. I can't stop thinking about like whether or not her and Larys still have this weird like foot fetish agreement, just because that was such a alarming scene in season 1, and it we know he's a little nasty boy, he's a little freak. I just want to know if he's still getting feet.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point we'll find out, but not in this episode. Back at Harrenhal, Dream-and-Ass Daemon has another weird vision. He once again like storms out of his room with sword drawn and follows himself, like, but with an Aemond eye patch.
Yeah, it looks like Aemond at first.
And Aemond hair.
Yeah.
Because the hair is like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I'm pretty confident that they actually have Aemond is the one walking because he's got this very specific walk.
Yeah.
He's really nailed the walk for his character.
Yeah.
But it's like Daemon was dreaming about Aemond, but couldn't remember what Aemond looked like, so he just had him look like him, like himself. Good effort, brain. Close enough.
I mean, I think it was supposed to be more than that.
Yeah.
There's something about Aemond is torturing his mind a little bit, and he has something to do with it, or he sees himself in Aemond. Something is happening.
Yeah,
there with
something's
that,
going on
with
there
that,
for sure.
with that metaphor.
So he stumbles into this weird witch lady's room who, in episode 3, told him he would die in this place.
Yeah.
Her name is Alice Rivers, Alice with a Y.
Naturally.
A bastard and or barn owl, depending on if you want to take her word for it.
Mm-hmm.
She took over the maester's duties when the last one fled in the night. And they show her like she's like mixing up some kind of...
Yeah, witch's brew.
Yeah, something. So is she, do you think she's drugging Daemon to make him trip balls, or is he just sleeping in a haunted heart tree bed?
I don't think that she is I don't think that she is the puppet master here of all of his visions and dreams.
The issues he's going through. Well, because like you said, when you've got like some big life decision or some crazy stuff happening in your life, you tend to have dreams that sort of, that's your subconscious like wrestling with the weight of what you're going through.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe he's got that side of it. But there are multiple moments in this episode, one of which we're about to touch on, that makes me feel like she is like giving him something.
Right. Well, so what happens here at the end? Great performance by Gail Rankin here. By the way, I've got a little bit of an issue with this storyline or with this piece of the plot, which we'll touch on once we're finished with it. But I really like her. I like her character. I like the performance that she's giving. So yeah, when she gives him that, she's like, "You need your rest. You need your sleep. Here, drink this.
Gotta have sleep to take Harrenhal." Yeah.
And then he wakes up essentially like in a real life meeting,
right,
with no recollection of anything else.
Right.
Yeah, that's a little sus. That maybe there was something extra freaky deaky in the concoction that she handed him. Or maybe he did go back to sleep and he's just been such in a stupor that now he's just like
waking up mid-meeting.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think that her presence is just another kind of like layer of how wonky this place is, basically.
So last week you and I were trying to make sense of whether or not the part where Daemon drops his sword in the dream with Rhaenyra and then comes to at the weirwood tree and Alice is in the yard, essentially, and tells him, "You're going to die in this place." Whether or not he was still sleeping, or that was him awake and when he sees Alice.
Oh, right, yeah.
And this scene made me believe it's the latter, that he drops the sword, he comes to, and he is at the weirwood tree, and she's out there and tells him, "You're going to die here." So it's almost like she's watching him knowing he's going through all this shit.
Right.
And if you remember when he first came into Harrenhal, he didn't even want to eat their food, because he was worried they were going to poison him.
Yep.
And she was in that room. And and the combination of all that and the things she says in the scene and her brewing stuff at the table.
Yeah, totally possible. Very possible.
Just made me question what was going on exactly there with her. But she asks Daemon if he intends to make his own claim on the throne to prove himself to Rhaenyra, which is just an interesting wrinkle in that idea. Like, it's one thing to look at Daemon and wonder whether or not he wants the throne for himself. It's another to consider his intention, like the reasoning behind that. And she's implying like that it would in part be to prove himself to her, that he can do it,
right,
that he could do it, right? Daemon replies, "Do not try me with your insolence, witch." And anyway, she just really seems like she's trying to push him in that direction of going against his own sister, turning against his own niece / wife. And yeah, she gives him some drink to help him sleep. He starts drinking it and then like immediately comes to at a table with Sir Simon Strong and Sir Willem Blackwood, who is leader of the Blackwoods. And he's like clearly semi-intoxicated still.
Right.
Like he's struggling here. By the way, it turns out Sir Willem Blackwood was the little kid in season 1 who fought and killed a Bracken at the gathering of suitors for Rhaenyra.
The little kid.
So he was that small boy.
He's a wild boy.
That didn't like taking that lip from the Bracken, so he killed him. He's grown up now, and he's like currently sitting in charge of the Blackwood family until the younger kid comes of age, because remember, their lord was murdered at the burning mill last week.
Got it.
So Daemon talks with Willem, but like I said, still tripping. Sees his late wife, Lena, like walk up and start like pouring wine for them before he snaps back out of it. So we kind of only get bits and pieces of the conversation, but from what we do hear, it sounds like Willem wants Daemon to like fry the Brackens with his dragon, and in exchange, all the Blackwoods and their armies will fight for him and Rhaenyra.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm guessing he's going to do that next week. And more people are going to die under Dragon Flame. But Daemon essentially agrees to this. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. I'm high as hell. I'll do it. But this everything going on with Daemon and Harrenhal is really interesting. It's clearly a device to keep his character in this place, both for the storytelling and for whatever's going on with him, right?
Yeah.
Because like he's uninvolved in all this other shit. They keep talking at Rhaenyra's small council about how he's not responding. They're not getting any ravens. He's the one that was supposed to be getting an army for them because they literally do not have one.
Right.
All they've got right now are dragons.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with all this craziness.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a bummer, though, because we have one of our best, most interesting characters siloed in a place where he is essentially running on a treadmill. And that kind of stinks.
A little bit.
And it's giving House of Black and White a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that prior to the final season of Game of Thrones, that was pretty much everybody's least favorite storyline of all time.
When it was all said and done. Yes.
Yes.
But while it was happening, it was kind of tight.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I'm at with this. I'm like, all right, I agree with you.
And obviously, it's only been 2 episodes,
right?
So but based on what we're seeing in like the previews for next week's episode, etc., it looks like we're going at least one more. And I'm just very hopeful that this is like, I hope that he is not just like kind of cordoned off from the main event
all season,
because that would be pretty weak. I'm okay with him like being over here, sidelined, kind of like working his shit out and figuring it out, and then they're gonna like merge the stories back together in, I don't know, episode 5 or 6 or whatever. Well, I guess we're on to 5 next week, right?
Yes,
and there's only 8 this season, so
right.
We're
at the halfway point here.
We're at the halfway point. So I would just it's just, you know, like I want Daemon to be more a part of the story, basically.
Yeah, and essentially, I agree with you. They just have to make this worth it.
Yeah,
they have to make this hit in the end, which the House of Black and White for Arya did not.
Right.
It ended up feeling like that was kind of a waste of time. I mean, I get it. We don't have to get into all that today, but the point is, so far, okay, fine. Daemon's kind of stuck in this haunted house. He's being tortured by, you know, his inner turmoil. He's got this witch lady messing with him. He might be getting drugged.
Yeah.
Let's get him out of there.
Yeah.
Let's get it popping.
I'm clear on what's happening in Harrenhal now. He's really going through it. So yes, I'm looking forward to his exit from here now.
Yeah, and seeing how this plays out longer term for his character.
Yep.
Yeah. At the next small council meeting, they're in King's Landing. They're talking about how they're running out of money and the blockade is limiting their resources. You know, which is a big deal right now. They're in wartime. They also talk again about how well Criston Cole is doing, turning every castle and army he faces to their cause. The Kingmaker, they're calling him. So that nickname gets dropped multiple times in this episode, which felt kind of notable. It's almost like Jaime Lannister, Kingslayer, except Kingmaker, right? Nice little parallel.
Yeah, anytime you're mashing up anything with a K, whether it's king or kin, and then some other verb word added to it, it's kind of a tight nickname, even if it's terrible. Like Rhaenyra, the Kinslayer. That's kind of cool too.
It sounds cool. Yeah,
it sounds cool.
Yeah. Aegon, the king, says his small council is boring him. They all bore him, and he leaves. You can tell he's feeling really inadequate. Like he doesn't even have a place here, right? Yep. So they carry on the meeting as if he was never there and never left. That was quite funny, actually. Gets up and storms out, and you think like maybe they're going to talk about him. Mm-hmm. They don't even acknowledge him. Yeah. They just carry on. Aegon is an empty suit. So he goes back to his chambers, Aegon, and he finds his mother Alicent there trying to locate Viserys' history books, which Aegon had removed because he's a dum-dum. And he tells his mommy that the small council doesn't care what he thinks, and she's like, why should they? You're an absolute moron. She says, quote, Do you think simply wearing the crown imbues you with wisdom? Those men at your council table earned their seats. It was my hope that once enthroned, you would honor the burden of your new duties, be silent, and strive to learn from the more studied minds around you in hope that you might be half the king your father was. And he's just like, damn, Mom, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He tells her to watch herself, but she just like continues putting him in his place, saying he has no idea the sacrifices that were made.
Second time he's heard this, by the way.
To put him on the throne. And so he kind of breaks and he's like, what would you have me do, Mother? Like, what am I supposed to do then? And Alicent says, do simply what is needed of you. Nothing.
Yeah.
Which is the backbreaker.
Hardcore.
Basically tells him he's a worthless figurehead and they don't want him ruling. They just want him as the face guy.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's such an interesting thing about this entire, what essentially boils down to a coup that they've pulled off.
Yeah.
Is that the only thing he was is the right name and the right
bloodline.
The right bloodline. Exactly. So like, yes, technically we are propping you up as the king, but really this is to get everybody else's agenda in motion.
Right.
You know, it's just, it's a very like, it's a nod to like all sorts of politics and how these things like actually play out, which is that generally like, you know, it's this dude is not some great destined ruler with tons of wisdom and right for the position and out to make everybody's lives better. He just got put here basically because everybody else decided that that's what they were going to do.
Yeah, and the lines delivered by Alicent are great. I mean, the idea, you can see him wrestling with what she's saying. Like his acting performance, fantastic here too. Because when she says, like, you thought just you'd put on the crown and then you would know how to do the job?
Right.
Like you got to go try. And that's why Viserys studied all the histories, because he recognized that the knowledge and wisdom he had himself was not enough.
Yeah.
This is work. It's a hard job.
And Alicent obviously going through it as well, but I think one of the things that is definitely kind of like playing over and over again in her mind as she looks for all these history books and reckons with what Rhaenyra told her and all this type of stuff is that it not only is Aegon young and he has no wisdom, but like he was not prepared for this. Nobody taught him anything.
He didn't even want it initially.
They did not like. It's just I think it's becoming that has to be burning her too. The fact that like, okay, he changed his mind, not really, but did he? Because he did not set this kid up for success whatsoever.
Right.
Like he didn't have any training. He didn't have any.
Wasn't having weekly meetings with Aegon.
He didn't sit on small council meetings. He's totally green. Like he has no idea what he's doing.
He is totally green.
Yeah.
He is. So this conversation causes him to continue drinking heavily and eventually make the decision to fly off on his dragon Sunfire to try and gain some respect. So like you could
I'm a man.
Pretty much Alicent's fault.
Yeah, totally.
Like if she doesn't come in here and just continue belittling him, wrecking his whole self-esteem, he probably doesn't decide to do what he does. Alicent, role model to mothers everywhere. But, you know, she doesn't feel good, so you got to cut her a break. On Dragonstone, Rhaenyra finally returns, and Dat Boy Jace gives her some serious lip for being gone so long without explanation. She tells the council that she went to King's Landing and tried for peace one more time by meeting with Alicent. Gives a great quote. I inherited 80 years of peace from my father, and that's including Jaehaerys before Viserys, obviously. Before I was to end it, I needed to know there was no other path, and now I do. Only one choice remains to me. Either I win my claim or die. Rhaenys tells her, all right, great. Let's get you up to speed. Cole is marching on Rook's Rest, and there's some back and forth, and they're like, we need to send a dragon, which is what they were talking about before she walked in. So Rhaenyra is like, you know what? Fine. Enough of this shit. I'll go. And of course, they immediately explain, like, well, that's a terrible idea. If you go, Jace is like, if you die, this is all screwed. We're already hanging on by a thread. If you go down, it's over. So no, you can't go. And you just got back. But he says he'll go. Instead, Jace wants to go. She says he doesn't have the experience. And finally, Rhaenys insists on going with Meleys, the largest of their dragons, and no stranger to battle. So has experience, right?
Yep.
Veteran dragon.
Right.
Veteran dragon rider.
Yep.
Biggest dragon the Blacks have. Rhaenys says, I will meet Cole. Cool line. Then we get this badass scene. Oh, I'll say this. Part of the scene is badass. I'll get to the part that I'm not so high on. Rhaenys is prepping to ride off on Meleys from Dragonstone, getting armored up and everything, suiting up. She's going into the dragon hangar, right? Giving that great line. What does she say? We're off to battle again, old girl.
Old girl. Yeah.
Hitting us with one more smile. We got Aegon getting shit-faced and deciding to go on Sunfire. There's a voiceover from Rhaenyra telling Dat Boy Jace about this, and stop me if you've heard this before, some crazy dream that Aegon the Conqueror had that they call the Song of Ice and Fire. So what did you think about the Song of Ice and Fire being utilized again here?
I mean this with all due respect, and I don't even mean it as a knock against the episode. I don't care.
Yeah, and
I just don't. People, this part is I know they're pumping it in here because they feel like they have to, but it's number 12 on my list of things that I'm interested about in this entire season, episode, moment, overall story. We know how this all plays out. I don't really care.
Look, I get it. It's the motivating factor for Rhaenyra,
right.
As she explains.
Yep.
She's like, I need to know, I have to believe that this legendary dream...
Right, is all for this uniting cause.
And it's real.
It's against something bigger than all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to believe that if I'm going to fire the nukes,
right.
I need to know and believe in my soul that it's for the right reason.
Yeah.
And I get that she's telling, she's sharing this with Jace because he is her heir.
Yeah.
And that's what these Targaryens are supposed to be doing. I get it.
Yeah.
I was kind of God damn it. I'm trying to pay attention to this other cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The Rhaenys scene is cool. The Aegon scene is cool. I'll say this. If they had to give us more of this, I'm glad they did it with some other awesome visuals taking place and not just a standalone scene between Rhaenyra and Jace.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't even think it didn't even get an eye roll from me. I was just okay, yeah, we know. Song of Ice and Fire, that's why she's so into it. She can't let Jace go because Jace has to sit on the throne next to unite the realm and fight off the White Walkers 100,000 years later, whatever it is. I know it's not that long. It's 200 years, 150, whatever. Yes, it comes after Aegon going to the dragon pit and Sunfire kind of dog nose nudging him and he's yeah buddy, and Meleys and Rhaenys having their little moment, which is so awesome. So it's overshadowed by cooler moments, you know,
which I think is okay.
That are in the present that matter more. So that's all.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway from this Rhaenyra and Jace convo was it doesn't bode well for Rhaenyra. It didn't make me feel great about Rhaenyra and her long-term survival. Okay, she's already, I don't know, but on the other hand, she's supposed to do this. This is what you're supposed to do with your heir, right? Even Viserys, he was I should have done this with you a long time ago when I named you heir.
Yeah.
Kind of the same exact thing plays out with Jace, so there's also a parallel there between daughter and father.
Yes.
Anyway, when Rhaenys said to Meleys, we're off to battle again, old girl, and they gave us that shot, I was oh, fuck.
Yeah.
You had to, somewhere deep inside of you, you knew, oh no, this is bad. Because especially that line combined with the music building in the background, some of the best Thrones episodes ever. I'm thinking of the Sept of Baelor exploding.
Right.
There's a song that starts 5 minutes before you even get to the explosion that just builds towards it and lets you know some shit is about to hit the fan. I mean, I kind of got that vibe here with the music and this scene and everything going on.
When Rhaenys says that it's got to be her, she'll go, she's the right one to do it. And then you start thinking about that the scene earlier in the episode where she meets Corlys's bastard. You're this isn't good.
And even more importantly, the scene last week where
it frames that one as well.
Remember when we were what was that scene about?
Yeah,
why? Well, now we know why.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you couldn't feel very confident for her going into this battle. No.
Yeah. It was All right, moving on. There's no better way to make lasting memories than by getting out and seeing some live music, going to concerts, attending live sporting events. Everybody knows this, and that's why today's sponsor, Game Time, is so freaking awesome. Game Time makes getting tickets for concerts and events easier and faster, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to show start time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying concert tickets. Got the Game Time app pulled up, and right now in Austin, I can grab tickets to a ton of different live comedy shows, Austin FC soccer matches. We got WWE coming up in August, Round Rock Express baseball games, just a ridiculous amount of live music, like Cage the Elephant this Thursday at the Moody Center. So, racing out at the Circuit of the Americas. Game Time has it all and makes it incredibly easy to find and buy tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Game Time is also just extremely helpful if you want to keep up with all the events in your area, see what's happening tonight, see what's coming up on the calendar, grab last-minute tickets if you're feeling spontaneous. Also, they hit you with flash deals, zone deals. You can check out the view from all of the seats in the venue before you purchase, so you're not going to feel bamboozled. With last-minute deals, you save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Game Time also offers lowest price guarantees, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DRAGON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DRAGON, DRAGON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So outside Rook's Rest, Cole tells his men to ready for battle, and Sir Gawain is like, whoa, dude, it's the middle of the day. Do you not remember the whole dragon thing? We just almost got roasted in episode 3 by Baela. And Cole tells him to cram it up his cram hole, and the next thing you know, they got 1,400 to 1,500 men out there attacking this castle. And Rhaenys rolls up on Meleys, and Gawain is like, God damn it, Cole. I told you, not good. But Cole assures him all is going according to plan. And I was kind of expecting them to like roll out a scorpion, you know?
Yeah.
Cole tells his men, like, send the signal arrows, because they don't have flares.
Right.
It's just a signal arrow. And Rhaenys she's roasting ground troops with Meleys, right? She gets a few good blasts in there. Then we see the horn blowing and signaling Vhagar, who is hiding in the woods with Aemond in his saddle. So Aemond is about to take off. Like, horn blows. Vhagar's like, oh, nap time is over. Time to get up. But just as they're about to take off, Aemond sees his idiot brother Aegon riding in on his dragon Sunfire overhead. So instead of immediately attacking as signaled and as planned, he tells Vhagar to wait, which is an important note. He was supposed to go right then.
Yep.
But he's like, that little fucker.
Yeah, he's ruining the plan.
I'm going to let him go and be put in danger, essentially. Like, let's just, fine. You want to be a hero? You want to be the hero? I'm going to take a few minutes down here. We'll see how this plays out with you. So Vhagar lays back down and sighs. That was a tight shot, by the way. Vhagar putting the head back down, letting out the big sigh, and like all the grass.
Yeah. She's a big girl.
From that heavy-ass breath.
She's old. She's heavy.
Yeah. So Aegon flies up, shit-faced. Remember, he'd been drinking. And Kristen Cole sees him, and Kristen Cole is like, Gawain asks, he's like, and which dragon is that? Kristen Cole's like, that would be the king. Cole's clearly not prepared for that to be what's happening. He's like, send more signal arrows, and then he like fires up his men to attack. Look, the king is fighting with us. We got to roll. So Sunfire and Meleys fly right at each other. Rhaenys says, attack Meleys, and Aegon says, Dracarys, and then Meleys absolutely wrecks Sunfire. Meleys, a very good hand-to-hand combat dragon.
She's got the talons going. She's going to get those body blows.
Yeah.
Spill some guts. Yeah.
Rips his belly open, causes Sunfire to like boiling hot guts, apparently, because when they give you that shot of Sunfire like swoops down hurt, and a bunch of blood or whatever dragon oil spills out the side, it like burns the hell out of the guys below.
Yeah, also worth noting that we see 2 dragons fall to either their death or near death in this episode, and they both, much like a fighter jet, seem to explode on impact, basically.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's something with the fire and with their internal
organs and the way they operate.
Organs.
Yeah. The engine in there.
The engine in there. It acts a lot like a plane. It's seemingly
goes boom,
and it goes boom when it makes a large impact. But yeah, Meleys is got the, she's getting them body blows in.
Yeah, she's messing Sunfire up,
yes.
And that's about the time Vhagar's big old ass joins the party. So Aemond on Vhagar approaches the two other fighting dragons, and Criston Cole is very excited to see Aemond actually participating. You have to think he was scared that he was actually just going to bow out.
Mm-hmm.
Aegon is also very excited to see his brother approaching. He says, "Thank the gods," because he's just up there like holding on for dear life while Meleys goes ham on Sunfire. But then Aemond says Dracarys and flames the shit out of mostly Aegon and Sunfire.
Yeah, that's what it looked like on my first watch, for sure.
Who falls out of the sky and crashes into the woods, like Barrett said, explodes. So, crazy scene here because, I mean, when you're digesting this after the fact, one of the questions is obviously, are people going to realize what Aemond did? And I think the answer is no.
I think no as well, because Meleys is also up there.
It's chaotic
in the vicinity. Yeah, and I think does take some of that Vhagar flame.
Yes,
also,
but like but
the offshoot of it, right? Like the kind of the side wind. Yeah, because
Aegon and Sunfire take the brunt of it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to remember is like everybody on the ground is fighting. They're in a ground war.
Right.
Everybody's not just like, pause, let's watch the dragon fight and then we'll get back to it. Like they're all going at it. So I think odds are Aemond is completely getting away with what unfolds here. But it did feel like between him waiting to take off instead of going when he was supposed to, and this Dracarys that is like, I mean, we talked about the Dragonfire thing is not super accurate. You can't just like take out one guy at a time. It's like when you fire arrows into a crowd, you're going to have some casualties that you didn't intend.
Right.
I think between him waiting and between the Dracarys at Meleys and Sunfire who are wrapped up together, like he next to intended to kill his brother.
Right.
Like he's taking Aegon out here. That's my takeaway. So Rhaenys starts to fly away from the scene, like, what the fuck was that? But she kind of looks back and then almost whispers, "Attack, Meleys."
Yeah.
And then they turn back, and she like adds an extra dragon seatbelt for good measure, like clips, like one more clip, like, all right, it's just gonna be hardcore.
Yeah.
And Aemond sees her turning back, and then he turns back toward her on Vhagar, and like, boom, mid-air dragon collision, flaming and clawing. The dragons are dancing, Barrett. The old dance of dragons has begun.
Absolutely.
And Meleys puts up a pretty good fight initially, like gets some scratches in, gets Vhagar actually to the ground, which knocks Criston Cole from his horse and like renders him unconscious temporarily. Then Vhagar takes back off, crushing a bunch of their own troops in the process. Meleys and Rhaenys are once again flying away, but then it seemed like they both heard, like Vhagar groan. And Meleys looks back at Rhaenys like, we got to do this, right? And then they turn around back toward the battle. And just as they're flying back over Rook's Nest, the castle, Vhagar swoops up, takes Meleys by the neck, like flies straight up as high as she can and squeezes and kills her and then drops her. And Meleys does that one more look back at Rhaenys. They share like this final moment, and then Rhaenys, the queen who never was but probably should have been, falls to her death, killed by her own dead daughter's former dragon, which I didn't process until the second watch through. But like that was Laena's dragon. That was her daughter's dragon that just killed her and Sunfire. And why did she go back?
Yeah. Great question.
That's the big question from this episode, right? It's the question everybomes asking. What was it that motivated her to repeatedly turn back?
Yeah, it felt very death wishy in a way, like she was kind of tapping out. And I don't know if this was maybe trying to make up for leaving, for in the dragon pit, was it, or like when she could have ended all this,
when she could have ended
all this and doesn't, if she's trying to kind of like make amends for that, if she thinks that, if she just believes in herself, believes in Meleys that they can take out Vhagar and kind of like get a huge leg up in this battle or what, but yes, 100% the right move was to once they kind of like once Sunfire goes down and she has an opportunity to flee,
Get out of there.
And you have to think that we've talked about this before, and they're not being very explicit with it, but Vhagar is huge and probably can't fly as fast as Meleys. Like I'm pretty confident that
She could have got away.
You can get away there.
Yeah, and I think look, you have to take a lot of things into consideration here, and I think the scene in season 1 where she comes up out of the dragon pit and could have roasted everybody on Aegon's coronation day and chose not to definitely plays into it. I think part of it is probably that she's an honorable warrior, doesn't run from a fight.
Right.
I think part of it might be that she's had enough of this nonsense and kind of this life, because it seemed like she knew she couldn't win and was almost resigned to her death, like in terms of her facial expressions. It seemed like she was accepting her fate. On the other hand, I think having seen Sunfire go down and knowing, well, if we do pull off an upset here, the war is basically over. Like if Sunfire just went down with the king riding him, if Vhagar's old ass also goes down and Daemon, like it's pretty much over. The Greens are
pretty
in a very bad spot.
Yep.
So maybe she felt like she had to take the chance, but man, yeah, every single person watching wanted her to get the hell out of there.
Yep.
Like, even considering, like, you just watched all this unfold. Take that information back to the Blacks.
Right.
Let them know what happened here.
Yep.
Let them know, like, Aemond shot the king out of the sky.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the dragon war has started. Like, they're using dragons. You know what I mean? Brutal. Very, very cool death scene for Rhaenys.
Yeah.
Like, the falling back, letting go.
Yeah.
It was sick, but damn,
Yeah,
brutal.
And, I mean, if you're like an animal lover, like the Meleys going is equally as painful, I would say.
Dude, yeah. Look, the dragons essentially are like dogs.
They're like dogs, yes,
like pet dogs.
100%.
Like it's almost more upsetting to watch the dragons go than the human characters.
Totally,
because it's like there's this mystical, magical beasts,
right?
That there aren't that many of in the world.
They do love eating shitloads of livestock and like flaming lots of people at one time, but at the end of the day, they are just gentle giants,
beautiful, majestic
beautiful,
creatures,
majestic, gentle
giants.
Yeah,
dude, it was even dude. I hate Aegon sucks. I hate him, but even watching Sunfire go down,
I was
like,
absolutely,
like it's not his fault,
right?
It's like when I watch any movie like Gladiator, or Braveheart or whatever. And one of the horses goes down.
Right.
I'm like, the horse didn't choose to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
this is people's fault.
This is people's fault.
Bad people. Bad people. By the way, this whole Rook's Nest thing was filmed at the same location that the opening battle of Gladiator was filmed, which is
Bourne Woods.
That is so crazy.
Wood.
Probably one of the most epic and memorable battle scenes in any movie. I would say that opening, and also just for an opening sequence to a film.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was really fascinating, but yeah, this was really tough to accept. I mean, Vhagar also is a huge problem. That was their biggest dragon, Meleys.
Right. Yep.
Their biggest dragon, their most seasoned veteran of battle, and she's gone, just like that. Look, all things considered, it didn't really feel like a close fight. Vhagar flies off pretty much unharmed, like got some scratches, but is fine. Like, Aemond is up there, like, hitting a victory pose that no one can see. And
got that little curl smile going on.
Yeah, and that giant scaly old bitch needs to be dealt with. They're basically going to have to, like, triple team Vhagar or something. There's no path to victory for Team Black while Vhagar still lives and breathes.
Yeah, so huge knock to the well, let's wrap up the final
couple minutes here. So Criston Cole gains consciousness. He sees scorched earth and men turn to ash, and he sees Sir Gawain leading his troops into the breach of Rook's Rest, which made me wonder if like Sir Gawain is going to get credit for this victory. Cole stumbles into the forest alone, trying to find Aegon. Right, the whole Kingsguard thing is kicked in here, and he sees Aemond approaching the downed dragon and sheathing his sword. So at first it was hard to tell, is he pulling out his sword or putting in his sword, right? And I honestly, the distinction does not matter to me. He flamed him out of the sky. Like, he did this already. Aemond picks up the infamous cat's paw dagger and uses it to like point to Aegon so Cole can see where he is. Him picking up that dagger felt like a real changing of the guard symbolic moment. Aegon is on his back next to a dying Sunfire. Question is he alive next episode? Yeah. And the preview leads me to believe yes.
Yes. Aegon
is now full Will Ferrell and Austin Powers. Someone help me. I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm very badly burned. Also, one of our listeners tweeted her dad's joke at us. She was watching with her dad, and her dad said, "Shouldn't have been drinking and dragging." Classic dad stuff there. But it seems like they're laying him in his bed next week.
Right. Yep.
You don't put a dead guy
you don't put a dead guy
in a
bed. Yeah.
So he's probably barely clinging to life, is my assumption.
I guess. I hate this. I feel like it's kind of a cop-out. This is one of the takes that I prefaced earlier is based on only what they showed me. But we saw two people on two dragons fall massive lengths out of the sky and then into essentially a dragon body explosion. And one of them's definitely dead and one of them's living.
Yeah.
Like, come on. How's this dude alive?
So
it just feels very like convenient that he's still alive.
Meleys is all the way dead.
Yes,
like 10,000 feet up.
Vagar
so
kills
that fall,
her. That's right. That's true.
No chance of survival. Sunfire is more like, we're going down. Mayday, we're going down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Injured,
like,
but not dead.
Like if you were a fighter pilot, you could have hit the eject button and survived. Okay, so it's like he rides him to the ground into the explosion and is able to like somehow. But look,
that's fair.
I don't think. Here's my read. Aegon is out for the count. I think he's gonna die, or he's incapable of ruling. Regardless, and Aemond, between the way he goes down and Aemond picking up the dagger, I think we are moving on from Aegon. He was already an empty suit in this episode.
Yep.
So now he just remains king.
Absolutely. Like his arc certainly comes to like almost like a natural stopping point.
Yeah, it's over.
Here.
Like, I think he's done. Regardless of the fact that he may still be breathing, he's like a vegetable.
Yep.
And I think that the Greens are going to try to use that, like we see, on the next time on Game of Thrones or whatever they show us. They're like rolling Meleys's head through the street and saying, King Aegon did this. So they're really still pushing Aegon as their front man and the face guy.
Okay.
But everybody else is going to, they're just going to, but I think they will try to utilize it, but it will create even more conflict internally, and the Greens are just going to continue to like eat each other, basically. So, no, I'm with you. I mean, I didn't necessarily think it was a cop-out so much as I was just like, oh, come on. Because you could tell things are going to get even messier and more ridiculous as a result of this. And there's going to be all kinds of propaganda going on, and nobody is going to talk about how Aemond did this. It was him.
Right.
And we lost what I thought, should have been Hand of the Queen and probably one of the best characters on the show. And they did a great job with her, and she was great. And fucking sucks seeing the dragons go down, man. It was brutal.
It does. So moving forward, I think that some really interesting things are potentially shaking out here. And I'm going to use a little context clues based on what I watched in the inside the episode and in the making of that, and in the house the dragons built, etc., which I feel like is fair game. But they talk about how this was the biggest thing they had to do for the season. That this was the huge, massive, I loved the Britishism for it, seta. It's a seta, a set piece.
The seta?
The seta.
Okay.
It's a big seta. And so I'm... Not that we're not going to see dragons, and maybe dragons will still be doing some Dracarys or whatever, but I think this was this season's massive dragon battle, and the Blacks are severely, I mean, they were already like playing with 10 men, basically, right? They don't have an army. They don't actually currently sit on the throne.
Nice soccer analogy.
The best piece of propaganda belongs to the Greens with the death of the little of Jaehaerys, the little boy. Like, they got nothing going for them.
No.
And as you said towards the beginning of the episode, I actually like this for Team Blacks, just based on the way that stories are told. This is
They got to have a comeback here.
They're going to have a comeback.
There's only one direction to go, and it's
exactly
up.
because they are essentially at rock bottom. And we got a whole bunch of stuff about how we get little. I don't know if you caught this, but we've got at one point, what's her name? Sonoya Mizuno's character starts with an M.
Massaria?
Massaria, yes. She's just watching the small council from afar, kind of listening, kind of listening in. And we see some stuff with her in the coming weeks, and I believe that the line is there's more than one way to win a war.
Right.
Of dragons or something
also
like that.
from the season trailer as well, yeah.
She's basically like, you can win this without ever you touching another dragon, basically.
Right.
And so I feel like this war is going way more underground, way more propaganda. I think you used a great word there. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think we're going to see a lot of information being shared or spread or passed along in one form or another. But I'm feeling I'm actually this little trap that the Greens set and the massive loss that the Blacks suffered because of it. I actually think probably bodes well for the Blacks long term, because otherwise this war is just about over.
Yeah, like we said, you get hot too soon.
You
got to get hot at the right time. And there's going to be massive implications as a result of all this. First of all, Lord Corlys just lost his wife. What's he going to do? How's he going to react? Laenor, Rhaenys and Corlys' son, who's off, on vacation, is he going to come back from vacation and be involved somehow? Is this going to be the thing that brings him back? Because I was on Lord Corlys' death watch.
Right.
Turns out I was wrong. It was Rhaenys, who I should have been looking out for.
Yeah.
Is this going to be yet another thing that makes the Greens and Blacks realize, because Aegon also went down, are they going to be like, we can't keep using these dragons? This is too ridiculous. This is not... We're both going to lose, essentially, if we keep going at it with the dragons. Is that why we don't get a lot more dragons the rest of the season, if we are, thinking that maybe that's going to be the case? And also note, every episode cannot be huge dragon fights, right?
Yep.
We knew going into season that episode 4 was going to be a big one. I had seen a lot of hype around it and critics saying, episode 4 gets crazy. People are already calling this one of the best episodes to ever come out of the Game of Thrones universe. It is being extremely well accepted and reviewed and critiqued and lauded online. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's really, really tough to make the dragon fights, especially them wrestling each other in the air, look good.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job. There were only a couple of shots where I was like, "Oh, we're doing the thing again."
Basically, anytime they have to get on the buck is what they call it, and it's Buck 2.0 now, and they have a better one, and there's a little AI camera attached to it now that swivels with it and basically moves with it, and so that's some of it looks a lot better because of that. Because they don't just have to do the stationary camera with basically the writing the mechanical bull thing. It's higher tech now.
Yeah, and you see all this in The House That Dragons Built, the documentary.
Yeah. So it was all pretty good. I didn't, Aegon's little bitch ass looked kind of dumb on the back of it for a minute.
And I think he's supposed to.
I think so too.
It's supposed to be. It's saying something that he's got on Aegon the Conqueror's armor, and he looks like a kid playing dress up for Halloween.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's just not fit for the role. This is not him. So just final thing, what did episode ends? Where were you at? What were you thinking? How was this? It
was good. It was. I was. Like I said, I was upset. And I think you were supposed to be. I think this episode is supposed to make you upset. This is the type of, we loved Rhaenys. We had those excellent, frames with her and her Maelys. And yeah, you're kind of down and out after this episode. And I think that that's exactly where the show wants you to be.
Felt like a beating, man.
It was a beating. They ratchet up the stress pretty early on, and they don't let that tension go until the very end. Kristen Cole, God, just absolutely ripe for a comeuppance.
He's so hateable, dude.
And we'll we're just gonna be waiting for that one for a while, I imagine. Sir Gawain's out there, maybe making a little bit of a name for himself.
Yeah. He's also a big wrinkle here because Kristen and Aemond have teamed up. They kind of have their own idea for the way they want things to go. Gawain is Alicent's brother. He's very much tied in with the Hightower thing more than the Targaryen thing.
Right.
There are two different things going on here. When is Otto Hightower going to return?
Yeah.
At because he's not just going to be out.
Right.
He's not just out, Otto. Like, something is going to happen there with him eventually.
It's a good point.
Because now you've got the Hand of the King / head of the Kingsguard failing to protect the king and also strategizing behind the king's back with the king's brother. Like, it is a real mess in the Green camp. That, like we've said, combined with all the momentum that they seem to have, I would say does not bode well for them.
Right.
But nothing in this season has bode well for anyone so far.
Not really.
Like, it's really just, it's been a shitstorm. And it's almost like this one is, I hope, kind of a low point. Because I don't mean that from like an enjoyment of the show perspective. I mean that from like a, man, nobody's getting.
Well, and I'm really excited to see what moves there are to be made. Like, I don't know if it's going to like kind of like go in an espionage way or what. But yeah, and to your point about Otto and Laenor and we've kind of put some characters behind the curtain for a moment.
Yeah,
just waiting to kind of return to stage a little bit.
Yeah, like where's Hugh?
Where is Hugh?
I know, everybody's asking that question.
He's in the wings, man. He's just waiting for his cue.
The actor who plays
Hugh's
Hugh.
waiting for his cue.
The actor who plays Hugh threw us a like on one of our Instagram clips.
Oh, nice.
I was like, yes, we got Hugh.
If you got Hugh.
That's huge.
That's huge.
It is. Yeah, that's what they say.
But yeah, so the battle scene was awesome. It was we finally got the dragons in action, which was cool because we've been kind of waiting on pins and needles for it. And now I'm kind of equally excited to see what because there's a lot of there was a lot of like messaging about like, okay, everybody like suddenly like sees what happens now when they bring out the dragons, and it's pretty awful and horrendous. And so do they stash them for a little while they run the ground game?
I would think so.
And it seems like that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, it was supposed to be one of Kristen Cole's takeaways when he gets up.
Yeah.
Like, this was his plan, part of it was him and Aemond's plan that they enacted here, and he sees the devastation as a result of that plan and like touches that one guy who just crumbles into ash. That's letting you know he's realizing like, okay, this didn't go exactly the way I expected it to, right? Obviously. Aegon being down, all things considered. Yeah, I would expect there to be some conversation about, all right, what do we do with the dragons moving forward on both the black and the green team? Because this has been a mess. It's every episode is like, all right, now what's the fallout from that going to be? Now what's the fallout from this going to be? Now what? Like, at some point, it has to turn toward more of a momentum shifting narrative. And Daemon seems like he's losing his mind there in Harrenhal. I have to assume at some point in the next couple episodes he's going to get out and be doing this bidding on behalf of the Blackwoods to try to get them in their army. And then, I don't know if we'll get one more big battle toward the end of the season or something. But like you said, we're at the halfway point. We're 4 deep. One hell of an episode of television, this one.
Yep.
And one hell of a season so far. They're doing a fantastic job. Very excited to continue enjoying it and discussing it with all of you. Remember, in addition to today's episode, we will be releasing an ad-free episode like we do every Thursday exclusively on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, where we dive deeper into this week's show with further digestion and discussion driven by hotline calls from our listeners. Subscribe on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles now and enjoy a 7-day free trial so you can see how awesome those episodes are when this Thursday's drops with further coverage of the season 2 premiere. Patreon, patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Also, please support our sponsors all season long by using the URLs and the codes provided in the description of each episode, as that is how we stay in business. Check out the Ross Bolin podcast for more from me. If you're an F1 fan, check out Formula Bone at youtube.com/@FormulaBone. If you're a Houston sports fan, check out Banging the Can, my Houston sports podcast. Follow me, Ross Bolin, on Instagram and Twitter at WRBolin. Mr. Dudley, where can the people follow you?
Yo, I'm available at Barrett Dudley on X and Instagram.
Go to bolinmedia.com/shop and grab yourself some merch, like a Save a Horse, Ride a Dragon t-shirt. Those are hot sellers. Get in there, bolinmedia.com/shop. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting our show. We are very much looking forward to hearing everyone's reactions on Patreon with our hotline calls this week, as well as reading them on social media. Holler at us. Until next time. Hot, 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 hot.